Hey artists, let's talk about your inspired plaster sculpture. So, the challenge for this assignment will be to create a 3D painted plaster gauze sculpture inspired by the work of a well-known 2D artist. Let's unpack some of those things in that challenge. First of all, let's talk about 2D and 3D. So, what do you think a 2D artwork is? So a 2D artwork is any flat artwork, drawing, painting, even though they technically have a third dimension, they are considered 2D, they are flat. What is 3D then? So 3D artworks have height, width, and depth. So this is a sculpture. You need to be inspired by somebody's flat artwork and turn it into a sculpture. You cannot be inspired by a sculptor and make a sculpture, but instead you have to translate a 2D artwork into something that is three-dimensional. When I say a well-known artist, what I mean is somebody who is famous, but not just TikTok famous. So they do not have to be dead. They do not have to be from the European tradition, but they cannot be your favorite YouTuber. I'm sorry. I would like you to learn about people who have made a difference in the art world, either in the past or are currently making a difference in the art world. So there is a list of ideas that you can use. And if your person is not on that list, then you need to clear it with me. For example, so on the left we have Weeping Woman by Pablo Picasso. He is well known for his abstractions and his cubism. On the right is a sculpture inspired by that artwork. So you can see how connected it is to that style, but it's not an exact duplicate. That's not what I'm asking you to create. Another example, on the left, you have Jackson Pollock's artwork. He is well known for his splatter painting. On the right, you have the same sort of technique, this time applied to a beanbag sculpture. So while it is not necessarily a sculpture that you would put up on a shelf, it is still a three-dimensional work of art that shows a clear connection to the artist's inspiration. On the left, you have Frida Kahlo's self-portrait, one of her many self-portraits. And therefore, on the right, you can see the sculpture inspired by that is very similar to how she's shown herself in a 2D artwork, but also has some of its own things added. So you do not have to exactly duplicate things and just make it a sculpture, but I do want you to interpret. You are just inspired by, not copying. Once you have selected an artist, you need to do a little research. So on each page, there are the directions. After you complete the directions, you can delete them. On some pages, the directions are simply to add your text. So you have to pick a famous 2D artist and complete the slides. You research them, you learn about their works of art, and you need to be inspired by them for the project. The list, once again, is linked for good ideas of artists you can look at. Once you select one, you see your first slide is to write in the name of your artist and your name. So there would be my example. Then you need to find some general facts. Google their name and see what comes up. You need to add in what type of artist they were, their date of birth, date of death, where they lived and where they were born. I've chosen Georgia O'Keeffe. You can see my examples here. Then you need to learn about their art movement or movements, what kind of training they had, people or events that influenced their art, and how they were received during their time. That means, what did people think of them while they were alive? Here's my example. These are all true facts from Georgia O'Keeffe. You can see some of these areas I retyped myself. Some I copied and pasted from articles I read about her. You are welcome to do that as long as it actually answers the question. Don't copy and paste random snippets that have nothing to do with the question. Then I want you to describe their style, describe any recurring subjects, images, or themes. If they're no longer alive, what is their legacy? How have they affected the art world? And then any interesting information about them. So here's my information about Georgia O'Keeffe. Notice some of these you're going to have to summarize. I didn't quite finish one box there, so I cannot call this one checked off, but you should finish all of them before you call this done. Last but not least, you need to reflect on your personal opinion of the artist. So how you feel about them, what feeling you get from their artwork, what about them do you like the most, and if there is a specific artwork of theirs that you really enjoyed. This is a great tip to keep in mind as you're moving towards your sculpture. Here's my answers about Georgia O'Keeffe. Once again, notice I have some specific things I really like about her work and some reasons that I'm inspired by her. And now you need to find examples. This is the visual part. It's very important. So the directions tell you to find a photograph of one of your artist's most famous pieces, copy and paste it, crop or resize as needed, and delete the instructions when done. So that box should not be there since I have an example piece. And since there are 3 slides, I included 3 example pieces to show that I've done my research. Once you have all of that done, you should have some great ideas brewing in your brain about how you can make a 3D sculpture inspired by this artist. So in your sketchbook, divide a full page into 4 equal pieces. You can see my diagram on the right-hand side. Plan the sculpture inspired by your artist. I want to see 4 views. If you can't imagine how this thing is going to look 3D, it's going to be very hard to build. So draw what it would look like from the front. Draw what it would look like from the side, left or right, I don't care. Draw what it would look like from the back, and then draw what it would look like from above. That's the view you're going to take as you build it, since you'll be seated next to it and it's on your table. You do not have to color your side, back, or top view. You do have to color the front view. Since you will eventually paint this sculpture, I want to see how you also plan to use color to complete this artwork. When you have completed all 4 views and colored your front view, then you will show me so we can brainstorm how you will actually construct it, what materials you will need, and then you can get started doing that so you can cover it in plaster.